public are sick of politicians navel-gazing, and really we want some grown-up politics, really. If we carry on squabbling between ourselves, we're never going to get anything done as a government.
But you've got to acknowledge he would be divisive, because all those people wanted him out and don't want him back. We've been talking to them on Sky News this afternoon, some of them.
Well, it's about bringing together people on both sides, I think, Sam, really. I think, letting bygones be bygones and looking at the bigger picture, why we all got elected here in the first place. And yes, that means some compromise, but we're all going to have to compromise. We're all going to have to come together, because if we don't, let's be frank, a lot of people here aren't going to be MPs in a couple of years' time.
I mean, at the moment, the Conservatives have a 71 majority. Boris Johnson won't be able to keep that majority, push through change if he becomes Prime Minister again, surely.
Well, I think we need to look at grown-up politics, Sam, and as I say, we're having people calling for general elections now. We're looking at what's happening with the markets and so on, and we need some stability, really. And I think colleagues are kind of getting a realisation of that in the last few weeks. I think they say a week is a long time in politics. It certainly has been this week, and I think really it's time for a bit of reflection, really. But again, it's about being grown up, it's about coming together, it's about letting the past be the past and looking towards the future.
When I talk to Tory MPs, it's the red wall MPs, it's people like yourself who want him, but the blue wall MPs, arguably vulnerable in a different direction, they're the ones that are nervous about a Boris Johnson report. Do you recognise that as a bit of a divide in the party here? One of the problems that he's got to overcome?
That's a fair point, and as I say, we had a lot of new MPs coming in. Boris is very popular in my constituency in the Red Wall, as we say, but really the Conservative Party were a broad church. You look at some of the new people who've been coming in recently into Cabinet as well, and I think if Boris Johnson comes back, we'll be able to shape that so we can include more people and kind of bring them into that big tent that we've really got. And I think that's vital. Whoever becomes the leader gets 100% backing from the rest of the parliamentary party, because if that doesn't happen, it's the road to oblivion, Sam.
Thank you very much indeed. Brendan Clark-Smith, who thinks that Boris Johnson can unify the Conservative Party and bring back grown-up politics, he says.
Sam, thank you very much. Well, joining me now is the former Conservative Special Advisor under David Cameron, Lauren McKevitt, and also the Chief Leader Writer at The Observer and former advisor to Ed Miliband, Sonia Soda. And Sonia, I think it was 48 hours ago or something that you were telling me that you thought it was all over. And, well, as far as Liz Truss is concerned, it is now.
Yeah, well, I think I can hardly take credit for that. There were lots of other people making that prediction as well. But I think, it's surprising how quickly it's happened. But I think after the scenes in Parliament that we saw last night, it became very clear that Liz Truss had sort of suffered a dramatic loss of confidence in her parliamentary party. And the fact of the matter is we live in a parliamentary democracy. And if you don't have the authority to govern, if you don't have the backing of your MPs in Parliament, it does mean that you need to go. And I think that's what's happened today. But I think when we take a step back, she's left the country in an appalling mess. The economy is in a much worse state than when she arrived, and that in large part is not only because of her, but the mini budget that she and Kwasi Kwarteng announced, and the market reaction to that has left the UK in a much worse place economically, and it means that the intro of the next Prime Minister is really pretty grim. Huge questions left by her resignation now, which is that the Conservative Party has said they'll elect a new leader in a week. How is that going to be done? Who will get a say? What kind of democratic mandate will they have? I mean, obviously, they won't have one in the sense that there won't have been a general election. So you are going to continue to see Labour put pressure on for a general election, regardless of who it is who gets picked and how it is. And I think there's still a certain amount of uncertainty about who it will be.
Yeah, Lauren, we're looking at a lot of people declaring that they're running, a lot of runners and riders. We've just been through a few of them. The next week or 10 days or so could be just as chaotic.
Absolutely, and I don't think it's going to be particularly edifying for my party, and I don't think it's going to be particularly stable for the country. But I think that there is absolutely no question facing our party right now for which Boris Johnson is the answer. He is not in Parliament at the moment. He's on holiday in the middle of term in the Caribbean. He is not a uniting figure for the Conservative Party. He would have absolutely no prayer of governing a national unity government. This is what we really need going into quite a very difficult winter. And I think we need somebody who has some personal integrity left. And I don't believe that he left office with any. So I really don't believe that he's the solution to our problem.
But the recent poll showed, Lauren, that he's pretty popular with the membership. I
think that's why it's very important that the parliamentary party narrow down the list to 2 people with very high thresholds very quickly, because I do not believe that his former parliamentary colleagues are going to put him on that ballot. I may well be wrong about that, but if they do, I believe it is a mistake, and I believe we were going to get one almighty kicking in the polls, not just in a general, but if we don't call a general very quickly in the locals in May, and we could be in real trouble there.
Sonia, what do you think of Boris Johnson possibly standing?
Well, I think he's still deeply unpopular with the public. And so, you know, that there is this thing, which is that he's always been very popular with the Conservative Party membership. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk from his allies around how